day, good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again to be part of this PAC community and share all the information with our amazing leaders we have here. And I want to introduce some really important people we have. Please turn on the cameras, turn on the microphone, but turn on the cameras because our lectures want to share and be something more interactive. So please do this. I really want to give a big thank you to Marlon and Lianna for this amazing job. They are great. They work a lot for put all this new information together. Also, Lisa is here. Lisa, I know you're here. If you're here, you can.
I am here. Good morning, good afternoon. Nice to see all you guys. Thanks, Victoria.
So thank you so much to take this time also to share with us. And okay, I think it's time to start. So thank you so much. Please, everyone, please turn on the cameras and close the micro, and we start. Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are very excited about this presentation because artistic impression is one of the most fantastic pieces of our sport. So we have a lot to cover today. We're going to try our best to make this interactive. So this is why we were asking, as Victoria said, to please turn on your cameras if you can, and also to include your name so that we can be a little bit more interactive. We do know that today we may have judges, obviously, but we may also have technical controllers or coaches or athletes or just the general community. So if that's the case, we still want you to participate. You're still an important part. So feel free to join us in the interactions today. And Marlon and I both also want to thank PanAm Aquatics for supporting us through this great presentation today. So moving into artistic impression. So the next slide. Actually, you know what I wanted to do first? Sorry, I wanted to in the chat. I'm just going to put quickly the new manual link in case you don't have it. So this is the new manual that just issued last week. So there it is in case you haven't seen it yet from your federation or you haven't got your hands on it yet. So it's there now. Okay, so knowing when we score artistic impression, we have 3 categories to look at. We look at choreography and musicality, we look at performance, and we look at the transitions and the routines. These are 3 different scores that we submit. They are anywhere from 1 to 10 points, and they're scored in 0.25 increments. The aim of these artistic impression scores should be independent of anything else we see in the routine. So they don't rely on the difficulty of the routine. We're not concerned with the synchronization of the athletes with one another, and we are not concerned with the element execution. So this essentially means that a routine with low difficulty can still achieve a high artistic impression score, or parts of the artistic impression score could be higher. We also have to remember when judging artistic impression, we look at the entire routine, beginning to end. Sometimes people say, well, why am I looking at a technical required element for choreography? Well, we still are, because it still may be impacted by your musicality score. So we look from the beginning to the end on the artistic impression components, but we are not concerned with the difficulty, synchronization, or execution. This is new in the new manual that was issued back in November. So this is the same chart that was in the November issued manual. What we are looking at in artistic impression has shifted slightly from the previous season. So choreography and musicality, we're looking at variety, creativity, and musicality, all equally at 33%. So those 3 components make up that 1 score. The second score we give is performance. It hasn't changed, to be honest. It's still the performance-based, or what we used to call manner of presentation. It's very similar, which we'll cover again later in this presentation. And probably the most significant difference in our scores now are the transitions. The transitions are focusing on two components only, 50% execution and 50% complexity. So we're going to go deeper into this chart throughout this presentation. This is our main focus for today.
So what about choreography and musicality? Well, we were judging that before. The only one thing is that to the concept of choreography, we have added the musicality, which was also before considered to be a different mark. So that's the music interpretation has now joined the whole concept of choreography that we were also looking at. It's more complex, it's wider to understand and analyze, and that's why we want to offer you some tools for you to understand it easier. The choreography of movements and structure within a routine involves combining elements like technical required elements, hybrids, acrobatics, patterns, and transitions to create an aesthetically pleasing effect. In artistic swimming, all routines are set to music. The weaving together with variety, creativity, and musicality of the complete routine, elements, and transitions. The choreography path. Choreography, judges must consider the entire routine for variety within a 33% and creativity in a 33% of the mark. These assessments include patterns, acrobatics, transitions, and hybrids. Therefore, path will represent this shortcut for patterns, acrobatics, transitions, and hybrids. Probably this is a new word that we're going to include in our artistic swimming community. Variety, the 33%. The question, what comes to mind when you're talking about variety? Is a lot of things that we could even imagine that are there. Why? Because there is no limitation on including things you want to add. The variety in hybrids. When we look at routines, it never stops. And this is the ideal effect that we are looking when there is something that really attracts you, because every second is something new. There are uncountable variations possible in hybrids that includes body positions, components from different families in different combinations, multidimensional movements, including simple and complex angles, various beginnings and endings, ascending, descending, continuous, combined, opening and closing, spins, twirls, and sustained rotations, all in a multitude of body positions and combinations, traveling or stationary movements, connected movements, movements in unison or in cadence. There has been a very worried situation for World Aquatics, and based on that, last year, we really worked with the judges to understand what variety is and how to recognize the variety within the routines, because there was this fear that the concept of variety was being replaced in a very wrong way by the concept of repetition. And here we are trying to explain that this is not the way. So we have now something that we are going to share with you is a video. Please prepare your mobile phone. You will have a QR code for you to go watch the video and then come back here in just 1 minute. So scan this QR code. And if you are unable to scan the QR code, I am going to paste the link to the chat. So when you're done watching, you can then come back to us here, because what we are looking at within these two routines, we are looking at the variety of basic positions, different families of the movements, and multidimensional movements. Keep in mind, we evaluate within each hybrid for variety and compare the variety of all hybrids throughout the routine. Now, we can do another exercise. Please scan this second QR code, and it will take you to choose between the routine number 1 and routine number 2 to answer the question, which routine has a higher level of variety? On the call right now, we have 88 people, 89, and until now, only 23 people have voted. I'm going to wait a little bit more just to have at least half of the participants really participating on this training.
Don't be
Marlon,
shy.
please try. It's nothing happened. If it's not okay, your answer, it's okay. We are learning all together. So please try.
This is the place to learn.
Yeah.
And the best part is that this Mentimeter option doesn't tell you who has voted which option. So it's totally anonymous.
I've even voted, guys. Teamwork.
I'm sorry, where do you go to vote? Where do you push?
On your phone.
On
You
your
have to
phone.
Well,
scan.
I'm not using the phone. I'm just, I
Okay,
have to
I
have the
am going
phone.
to copy on the chat box the link for you to vote.
I don't see the chats. Can't find it.
Okay, we have reached half. So then we're going to make presentation. And this is what we have. 43 votes went for the second routine as the one who displays wider variety, and 3 votes have the opinion that the routine number 1 has more variety.
Mm.
Lianna, would you like to comment something on this?
No, well, I mean, I wished everybody participated, but this is okay. Clearly,
Mhm.
routine 2 shows more variety, and I'm happy that our percentage is there. This is good. Again, variety in the hybrid means not the same movement being repeated. We know that the new rules now, we won't see routines like the first one you saw, because there's hybrid families and there's limitations. The technical controllers are now, there's only allowed to be 5 declarations per family and a max of 3 techniques per hybrid. So we know there's limitations. So we should not see routine number 1 ever again. We will see routine number 2. They did show more variety.
And still, I do believe that if we see a routine again, like the one number 1, the mark should reflect that this is not exactly what our sport is about.
No, that's not what we want to see. Okay, moving on to the variety in transitions. So just to remind everybody, and we will talk more on transitions when we get to that section, but a transition is the movement before and after an element. In a team routine, it's the paired acro. It's always the paired assist movements. In an acro routine, it's everything outside the acros. So transitions has a little bit of a wide variety, but typically we're looking for variety in the strokes and propulsion that the athletes are performing. We're looking for bent, straight, angled, and curved arm positions. We're hoping they'll use single arms sometimes and using some double arms throughout the routine. It even goes down to the variety of the fingertips and the hand and wrist positions. We can see a slight tilt in the body, movements on the horizontal and vertical lines. We want to see egg beater boosts in the transitions. We want to see the use of flutter kick, egg beater, scissors, whip kick, dolphin. All of them can be combined to travel nicely through the water. Torpedo is another option that athletes can use. So propeller or torpedo to project through the surface of the water. We also in transitions see ballet legs. That's also considered under there. So we want to see a combination of singles, doubles, flamingos, variations on the angles. Any type of surface flexibility where you see the athlete breathing still and they're showing us some flexibility, or a small movement underwater. Okay, so like they are allowed to show a little bit of apnea. We'll get into that a little bit later, the definitions. But, and as well, we also see paired assist action. So when they're lifting each other off the surface, different from a paired acro. This is more of an assistant, more of a flow into the routine. We are going to compare a variety of transitions in the next video.
So use your mobile phone, scan this code, and then come back here.
Marlon, I guess they're asking for the link in the chat as well.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to get it.
Thank you. For time's sake, we're going to continue to discuss this routine. If you haven't had a chance, you can maybe watch it while you're listening to us discuss it. So in that video, there's two routines, and they both are quite strong, to be honest, in their transitions. They're both are technical duets, so we're seeing them swim in full synchronization, like in the same movements. But one of them is a little bit stronger. So the first one showed us good arm angles. They showed us a mix of 1 and 2 arms. They gave us a ballet leg in there. There were some areas where there was no arm movements and just some sort of straight egg beater in the first routine. The second routine showed us more angles. They had more details when it came to their fingertips and arm positions. They had more variation of types of movements. They used their legs a couple more times than the first ones and in variety. And as well, they used varied speeds. So if we were going to compare these two routines, I'm hoping you agree that for variety of transitions, routine number 2 was stronger. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to see that. And then I guess we're moving on to the next slide. Marlon? Yeah.
A variety in acrobatics will take us to an endless sea of options and possibilities for the coaches to display the highest strength of the swimmers. The variety in acrobatics, according to our concepts as well, include 4 different groups that can be included. So we should not really see the same acrobatics repeating again and again in one single routine, because they have 4 different groups, A, B, and C. There are variety in positions, directions, rotations, and plays that can be used. And there are also pair acrobatics that can appear not only in the duets, but also can appear within the teams that will not be judged as a single acrobatic in that moment, but will include richness to the routine itself. Here, you can also scan this QR code and go and watch again something else that is prepared. well, you can still watch it while we are now commenting, because this video will take you through several options of acrobatics based on the group A, airborne. There is a flyer that we can all see flying and losing contact with the support part of the formation. None of these acrobatics will exactly be the same than the other one. So that's why we can really find endless examples to work with the judges, to train them just to identify different acrobatics. Then the question will be why a routine will always display the same acrobatic. It doesn't even matter how many members are on the team. It means that there is a lack of something. If you are not displaying different skills and different acrobatics, that means this lack of something is lack of variety on the display.
And of course, in the path of the routine, P is standing for patterns. And so we're looking for the variety in patterns. Of course, there's maybe the next slide, Marlon, because of course, this one was hard to show on a video. So we don't have a video for this little portion, but we know that patterns and pattern changes can vary. We want them to be closed formations. They can also spread out a little bit to make a better effect. We'll see curved lines, we'll see circles, we'll see straight lines, we'll see diagonals. Sometimes patterns will be moving. Sometimes they could be stationary for an effect. They can be symmetric or asymmetric in patterns, although typically we see them more symmetrical. The patterns and the variety of how they pattern change can be changing with all 8 athletes moving at once. It can be 2 athletes moving within the pattern, 4 athletes moving. So those are all varieties in patterns and the pattern shapes and how that affects our routine, and all important portions of what we're judging.
The creativity in hybrids includes 33%. So evenly weighted is very important. But what words come to mind? Things unexpected, things that really catch your attention and show something that even if they have been seen before, the way they are weaved together brings you to another state of emotion when you are looking at that. And this is the idea, because this is one of the most important parts of the artistic impression. Creativity can sometimes really be surprising, and the lack of creativity will take you to the other side. It will just take you to the boring feeling, which we don't want that to happen. Looking for unique, unusual, innovative, out of the ordinary, surprising, or unexpected actions. You want to see some of these, part of the videos that have been created for that? So scan the QR code and go watch it.
Marlon, can you put in the chat as well? I guess.
Yes.
Thank you.
You can continue watching while we talk, but indeed, the creativity is one of the most important parts and has become one of the key parts of the whole process. We have seen really many things since artistic swimming created itself as a sport, but has it been the same all over the time? No, it has been really developed and moved forward at different speeds probably, but yes, that's up to the person creating and moving that machine that is the brain for them to create new things. We really want to see more things. We expect to see more things, and we cannot really stop the creation of new parts in our sport that will represent a new page in the whole history of our sport.
I think in that last hybrid, comparing those two routines, when we're looking again at that repeated action, sometimes repeated action makes a great effect. But then there's a point where the repeated action makes it's inappropriate. It's just to achieve difficulty marks. And so now we know that there's penalties involved with this, right? This repetitive movements in hybrids are not permitted. So ensure that you look over, if we have any coaches or athletes on this call, make sure you look into how that's going to impact your routine. If you're going to push that envelope for degree of difficulty, it's not going to be to your advantage because there are penalties involved. Just wanted to touch base on that. Moving on to creativity and transitions, of course, we're still looking for the same things we did in the previous creativity in the hybrids. We're looking for unique movements, the unusual, the innovation. So out of the ordinary, maybe a little bit surprising or unexpected. We're going to watch the same technical duets that we watched before, and we'll see how this goes. Have a look. I'm going to at the same time too.
For sure, we must always keep ourselves away from mistaken execution for artistic impression. Please do your best to identify both always, and do not allow the execution and the execution of the elements to overtake whatever was presented in the brand of the creativity or anything that will have to be within artistic impression.
I agree, Marlon. It's so true. It's very important. If you're not finished quite, you can continue to listen to us, but those two routines, so it's the technical duet that we saw from before when we were talking about variety and transitions. Now, when we wear this different hat and we're looking at the creativity, was one of those routines maybe more interesting, have a richer variety, creating a more creative routine? Again, both performances are quite strong, but does one of them give you a little bit more of an edge in regards to creativity? We believe there is. The second routine has that little bit of an edge. But again, they're both strong routines, but we are seeing a little bit more unique and surprising moments. I think it's also impacted by the musicality. So the use of the music is helping with the creativity of the transitions because they're hitting movements well. But again, it's that full package of artistic impression that we're looking at here. So this is good. This is a great thing. All right, next slide. Perfect.
And the creativity within acrobatics, but as well that the variety, the creativity can be endless, and they can just use what they have as a theoretical base just to create things that really go beyond. Look for unique, unusual, innovative, out of the ordinary, surprising, or unexpected actions. And there are many of these acrobatics that has been always in mind of everybody because at the moment, there was the most creative thing, the newest, the most unusual, and the one that probably put everybody stand up and clap their hands. Want to watch the video? There you are.
I think when watching the creativity in acrobatics, there's nothing better when we're watching a routine and we say, how did they just do that? Or what did they just do? It was so incredible. And as Marlon said, this is an area that our sport is not going to stop, and that we know that the coaches and the athletes are working hard to push these acrobatics to new limits. And it's so exciting, really exciting. So we saw, I think even in that scan of videos there, they were all platforms of different sorts. There were some that made me wonder what they did.
Miedo, o de repente también los
Moving on to creativity with patterns, and that's Marlon, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So creativity and patterns. So again, we're looking for the unique and the unusual, innovative, out of the ordinary, surprising, and unexpected actions. So we've repeated the same sentence for every aspect that we've talked to about creativity. The reason is these are what you're really looking for when you're looking for creativity. Remember that a well-choreographed routine will be constantly moving and will cover the entire pool. It's got a constant flow, and they'll use effectively their space that they've been given. Let's take a look at this video, and then we'll chat a little bit about patterns after we see it. Still watching the video, but for time's sake, I'm going to kind of talk through your watch. You'll note that in this team, they're constantly changing patterns. No pattern is held for very long. They're constantly moving. They use unique use of athletes when they're changing their patterns. Sometimes it's the 2 athletes moving. Sometimes it's all 8 that are moving to change and significant into that new pattern. Their movements are well placed, as well as they use effective space. So sometimes the patterns are small, but you also saw them open up to a little bit of a bigger pattern as well. And that all makes it really creative and put the whole package of the routine together. So hopefully you were able to see that in the patterns there. All right, so moving on.
We go to the next one, the last third of the choreography and musicality, 33% dedicated for this concept. And the question will be, what routine do you remember because of the music? Maybe you don't remember any routine, but what movie do you remember because of the music? Then it means the same. It has been a feeling that has been seated in your soul and in your mind and in your heart that brings you to that moment when you watch that movie. And then you just need to hear the song. And you are, again, having in front of your eyes everything that was watched on that movie. The same will happen if the routine is that outstanding created. Because if the musicality is a highlight on the whole routine, no matter where you are, every time you will listen the same song, there is something of that routine that will come to your mind.
Great point, Marlon. It's so true. Bringing us back to the chart, because we've now covered the choreography and musicality score. Briefly, I mean, we could talk for hours, but we only have an hour. So this is our portion on that. So moving on, we're going to performance. Performance, again, really hasn't changed. We'll look at the next slide. It kind of encompasses everything that we're looking for. So performance we want to see full use of the whole body in the performance, the athlete's body language. We want to see the focus of the body and the face, not just the face, it's the full picture. We want to see variety in the moods of the athletes. It should be convincing. It should be sincere as well, not that pasted on smile because the coach told them to do that. The facial expression should be appropriate to what they're wanting to project to us. They don't have to be consistent either. They may be feeling the mood. We should see some charisma. They should be communicating what they're trying to message through to us. We want to see a consistency in the performance. Often we will find that the routine starts off quite strong in performance, might get tired in the middle, and then may pick up towards the end. We want to see it consistent throughout. It also should be effortless. Keep in mind, this is consistent as well. We often sometimes see the athletes turn on and off, like when they're looking up at the sky or they're looking up at the ceiling. They forget that we can still see their faces. So this performance needs to be led through their whole body for the entire routine. Again, no changes to this, but we give one holistic mark for what we see under these categories.
Then we move into the next one, which is transitions. The third mark, the most important one for us to work with you all, because transition until 2 years ago was something that we were not really judging separately, and it really needs for us to give an effort, an extra effort for all the judges to make clear that they are indeed understanding what a transition is and what is included on the mark that is being awarded for the transitions. So transition is divided in two concepts. We have execution and we have complexity. This is what we're going to work with, and this is the concept of the transitions as for now, is evenly weighted. So 50% of the mark for transition should answer what the execution was, and the other 50% what the complexity. It has listed here 5 different aspects that will be worth within this mark. But within the transition, we must understand that a hybrid is defined as a combination of 5 or more movements performed with lower limbs with intentional apnea, head down, under hips level. Note, however, that horizontal movements along the surface with 1 to 4 lower limb actions that have consequential apnea, rolling over, kicking, etc., are considered transitions as well.
We wanted to add this here in because this is new in the manual. So this was changed from the November manual to the January issued manual. So your newest manual includes this wording. And it's only to help with the idea of a hybrid versus a transition. Depending on the skill of the athlete's skill set, they may not have their head directly under their hips. So we don't want the judges to get too hung up on counting that. It's intentional, is more the intentional apnea is what we need to maybe be more focused on. We also see athletes doing movements where their head isn't directly underneath their hips. So again, not to get too hung up on that. Again, it's the intentional apnea. And I think on our stronger athletes, like our top level athletes, it's going to be quite clear. When you're judging more domestically at local competitions, it may become a little bit less clear, but based on their skill level.
So we have the execution for which we are going to judge based on everything that we have learned how to judge elements. Why? We're looking at the heights to define a ceiling mark, and this is what we are considering as an execution of the transition itself. That's why here we have drawn the examples of ballet, double ballet leg, and egg beater. So if you have already judged using these charts, you are going to have a lot of benefit because you know how to handle them. You just need really to know exactly when that is a transition and when that is a hybrid. Use this high chart to assist with execution score of transition when pair acrobatics are performed in team, acro, or combo routines. So here you have, we spoke about that already because they have been created and they have been assisted. They have been enlarged and they have been improved. So it's much easier now for all of us to use them. Because a transition can be shorter now than a hybrid, well, still can be big, but it's still being shorter than a hybrid. It can have up to 4 movements. So it's longer than before, but still remains shorter than a hybrid. And you might find all these positions wisely placed in a routine. And then you need also to get familiar, even if you are judging artistic impression, with all the execution concepts. Use all the basic position high charts to assist with execution score of transition in an acrobatic routine. So, want to see some examples of execution for the transitions? Open your mobile phone. I am going to pass also the link on the chat, but have a look at the video.
And please, please, please turn on the cameras. We want to see you. We want a more interactive Zoom. So please be kind, and it's nice for the presentation and for the lectures. So please be kind and turn on the cameras.
It's no fun for lecturers, guys, just black screens. We want to see your amazing faces and your energy. So thank you for being part of that.
Because these concepts within artistic impression are absolutely individual. We can watch again and again and once again, and we can have an idea of which will be the score range, and it will be different depending on which the aspect we are looking at. So we really, all of us need to try a lot more. We need to watch a lot of routines. We need to practice a lot more, because this is the only way we are really going to get very master on what we are doing.
We're going to look at the same, sorry, Marlon, we're finished. I can move on
Yes.
to complexity. Okay, perfect. So complexity. People ask all the time, and we've had big discussions, well, what's the difference? Why are we not calling this difficulty? Complexity doesn't mean difficulty exactly. It's similar, but what it means is the intricacy of the transitions. It's the detail put into the transitions. It's the diversity of the transitions. Words more along those lines. So we're going to look at the exact same routines that we just saw. Hopefully you've finished looking at them from an execution perspective. Let's change our hats, and we're going to look at it from the complexity perspective. So when you're looking at these videos, a couple things I want you to be aware of when you're watching. So looking at the patterns, look at the pattern sizes, look how numbers of changes they're doing, and the assortments of the patterns. And looking at the angles of the athletes, are they linear? Is there more dimension to what they're performing? And then looking at the diversity of the speed, the angles that they have, again, in diversity in how they're using the water levels. Sometimes their height in the water is high, sometimes they're along the surface. So let's take a look at those same videos, change your hat. Now let's look at them for complexity. Enjoy, same video. So I think it should be in your in the chat already.
As we said before, we can watch endless time the same videos. And if once we watch looking at complexity, next time we watch it looking at execution, we will be talking hours after each, because whatever we can say about the complexity might not be the same than we can say and we can speak about execution.
Yes,
This
I agree, Marlon. I feel that, again, there's a comparison, which is what we've tried to do throughout our presentation, is sort of offer an A and a B choice for you to decide on which is stronger. And again, both of these routines are good routines. One does show a little bit more expertise in the complexity. So hopefully you agree the first one is a little bit more complex, and you would give them the edge when scoring. And it's based just on, again, those things I asked you to look at: pattern sizes, the linear movements, the diversity. It's a little bit more intricate, a little bit more detailed. So it gives it that edge on the routine.
Going forward, we have one point that we already spoke 2 weeks ago, but it's very important for us to keep insisting on that, because we have to be all aware of that. Before, there were former bonuses that were declared in the coach card, and the technical controllers were going to revise and confirm whether they happened at the moment when they were clear. These were placement, traveling, synchronization, and pattern changes. But we moved forward, and now the first three I have moved. They are not anymore within the declaration in the coach card. They have moved to be judged under artistic impression, placement, traveling, synchronization. It leaves remaining only as a bonus to be in the coach card, pattern changes. But why? Then we have to be aware of what the concept of placement is, what traveling will be considered, and what synchronization means. This is the important part. That we have already spoken about that, and for sure you all know what this placement, we are looking at the placement of hybrids. At the end, towards the end of the routine, you are not going to be required to measure with the time, but you have to remember that this hybrid happened at the end of the routine. And that made also the effect of the grand finale. Traveling, when you have people moving, not in a solo, but you have the traveling of the team that are moving on the moment when they are just placing and not when they are doing a change of pattern, because it means that at least one person will have to move to do a pattern change. And synchronization is the display of this master skill on do an 8 people synchronization path that is going, well, the more complicated and more complex it is, should be, of course, more awarded and considered on the mark that we're going to give. Because otherwise, we are going to lose all these interesting things. If judges are not really looking at placement, traveling, and synchronization, unfortunately, I am afraid that coaches are going just to stop adding this value to the routines, and we cannot really afford that.
Coaches, just make sure your pattern changes are clear for the judges to see. No mushed up stuff. Thank you.
This next area is in the new manual, and it's just to help clarify for us, because there's always been a deep discussion regarding when a major error happens from an execution perspective in a routine or a synchronization perspective in the routine. How does it impact artistic impression? And it can impact us. So from an artistic impression perspective, if we don't, and again, we're looking at the whole routine, and this major error might be 3 seconds of this 3-minute routine. So it's minor in the big picture. So we wanted to put some numbers there to guide us or help guide us when an error happens in the routine. Okay, so if it should be deducted at a 0.25, a small deduction. If there's multiple errors in the routine, so the routine is just having a bad swim, and they're having some big errors and might have happened 4 or 5 times through the routine, we can maximize the deduction to like about a 1 point. It from an artistic impression perspective, right? This is affecting our scores. They will get in trouble from other panels and probably the DTCs and probably the STCs. But from our perspective, artistically, this is the max that we're hoping to deduct them, because again, the whole routine, 3 minutes, might totally be impacted by 20 seconds of problems if there was multiple. So we know this also can impact different areas. So when the intended action or the major error happens, if the error occurs during a transition, a small deduction can be added or deducted from your execution portion of the transition score. Not the complexity, the execution. So then again, seeing how small this can kind of be depending on the type and problem that happens. If the error affects the total command or the performance, a small deduction can be affected there. So again, if they stop smiling, if they have to talk to each other, if that performance is impacted, that's where you're going to impact the score. The overall choreography might be impacted if the routine has a confusing section where maybe there's a stoppage in the flow of the routine. So your choreography score can also or independently have a small deduction applied there. So again, it really doesn't, it really depends on the type of problem that happens in the routine, but we do want to let you know that you can be affected. We just don't want you to drop your scores completely because there was another 95% of the routine probably done correctly. if that makes sense.
But if anybody has a question, please just freely use the chat box or raise your hand, and we will also give you a chance to speak.
Marlon, you want me to take that? Okay, so this is the big
Yes.
chart. Okay, so this is the big chart. This is your almost Bible. This is what you need to treasure. This is what you need to study. We worked hard on creating this here. It's not complex to read. I also really want to note that this marking scale reaches between a 3 and a 10. It doesn't mean that 2 and 1s are not available for you to use. They were just very hard to describe in the chart, knowing that they would be on the weaker level. So 1s and 2s are still available to you. This chart just, we figure majority of the routines you're going to see are going to fall into these categories. But note, it's broken up by levels, so by your chart, as well as horizontally. So you'll see there's a general level, and then you're seeing a general comment about variety and diversity on this slide, and then it goes into details about our path factors. So you'll see details about patterns, you'll see details about acrobatics, you'll see detailed comments on the transitions and detailed on the hybrids. And the same thing for creativity, it's broken up that way. I don't know if we can move down to the next slide. And again, this is really a read through for time factor of today. We need you to take your time and read through this and digest where the categories fall. Marlon, I don't know if I don't think we have time to go into more details, I'm sure you agree. So take the time and read through this. It's very helpful, specifically before you're heading out to go and judge. But then we also have, which is the last, one more slide down. So you'll see again, it's riding through, oh, sorry, maybe it's not on this presentation, but you also have with your Judge Assist package that you would take out with you, there is a breakdown, a condensed version of this expanded marking scale for artistic impression. It's also quite good to have a quick look at, but you also can reference it if you're on the chair and you're debating about whether you're going to give it a good category or a very good category. There's words in there that will help to lead you to the right direction. Okay, Marlon.
Okay, so here we have a video. We want to show this video because we want again, well, we are near the end of today's session, but we want still to watch it. The task that we're going to do is to count. Please take a paper and a pen and count what the swimmer is going to perform and identify, because there will be three movements. So identify whether there has been either a transition or a hybrid each time. You will have to end up having 3 options written down. So please, let's watch it.
And this is the same video as the last session.
Now that you have watched it and written down, please, let's move on and go here. Scan with your mobile phone this QR code and go voting in Mentimeter. So you have the options, whether that was a transition and a hybrid, or that was a hybrid, transition, or a hybrid, whether there was a transition, hybrid, and hybrid, or they were 3 hybrids follow one another. I am passing also in the chat box the code, like the link, so you can vote.
It looks like people are having trouble seeing Marlon, so maybe we move on to the breakdown.
Okay. This is the case. We will have here, this is like a mock-up of a coach card, and what we have seen was this. And I'm going to show you what is the voting showing us now. That we have 6 people voted transition, transition, and hybrid. We have 13 people voting hybrid, transition, hybrid. We have 5 votes for transition, hybrid, and hybrid. And we have no votes for the option of hybrid, hybrid, hybrid. Which makes me happy because we have had all the options in different sessions. And makes me happy that we are really having better results. And here we have the pink column showing the real answer. This is what it was. This was a hybrid, transition, and hybrid. If you want to understand how that was this way, we are going to give you this hint. And you have here this QR code, and I'm going to pass it as well to the chat box. You can just skip it and watch it later, because this is what is going to show you how that has to be counted per element, so you know exactly what that is. I think that it has to be very clear that the last one was a hybrid because it was clearly long. So I have sent this link so you can keep it, watch it on, because we are about to end the session.
Yeah, so that video slows down for you and we've counted them out for you so you can see the number of movements in the hybrid, specifically the first one there that's a little bit trickier. Finally, because again, we are running over our time, so we are going to wrap this up for you today. Again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully it was a good session for you. I enjoyed it. But some final tips for success this season. You need to know that chart and the division of our scores. If you do not know that artistic impression chart, well, that's on the left side here, you're going to be different from the panel because the percentages are telling you where you're going to lay your marks. So you need to be familiar with that. You also need to be familiar with the marking scale. I know we didn't spend time on it, but there's a lot of words there and a lot of reading that you can do individually. And the third tip for you to have success this season, we all need to do it, is practice, practice, practice. The more you do it, the better. The more we get to discuss and chat and watch and observe artistic impression, the better we are for appreciating it all. And I think what we're hoping to do next, Victoria has given us the A-OK because we have not had an opportunity in 1 hour to
It's
be
not
able to judge.
possible, really. Not in 1 hour. It's no human way.
No, I know it's impossible. There's so much about this sport, but we're hoping to bring you guys back and hopefully have another session where we will cover acrobatic routines because they're so unique. Free combination, also very unique, and we need to discuss mixed duets. So the unique routines, those ones we need to discuss at a hopefully next session, but we'll be in touch hopefully. other than that, this was really fun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you again. I really, really appreciate it. I think it's awesome, your presentation. Thank you both. Did an amazing job here. I think it's so important for our community in Americas, this kind of updates in the new rules with our leaders. So thank you again. I really, really appreciate it. And I know all the people here also appreciate it. And for sure, you are welcome anytime you want. So we are going to make an agreement to the next date. And for sure, probably soon we can do that. Just two reminders from all the people. For coaches, we have two amazing Zooms and sessions with Anastasia. One is this month on the 28th, I think, and the next one will be February 25. So it's so important is we have the session with Cara with all the hybrids and all the things. With also Sonia and I, we did a short update the last week, but we have all the parts from the aqua. We know Anastasia is an amazing person working on that. So we have the experts for you. And the other thing is, remember all the PAC judges. We have our online exam next February 9. So be sure all your federations put your nomination to the exam. For sure, if you have approved the aqua exam, you don't need to do again the PAC. So it's only if you don't have the PAC, the aqua exam.
Yeah, and I really want to say thanks to Lianna because she has had a lot of work putting all these videos together. But that's a very fundamental part of these sessions we are doing. Many thanks to Victoria and all the technical committee of PanAm Aquatics because they understand how important it is just to have this type of sessions because this is the only way we can really share and give some tools to our judges just to improve and become better judges. Many thanks to Lisa because she always is around and now she is here also passing this hour with us. So to allow us to have this space just to share our experience and our knowledge is very important for all of us.
I just want to jump in and thank Marlon and thank Lianna, thank Victoria, thank PanAm Aquatics, Alvaro. Thank each of you for participating because it's really important that you're part of this journey with us. One very important piece of information, if you have suggestions, if you would like more information, let us know what you want and what you need, and we're happy to provide for you. Please remember the new rules were finally posted this week, and there is a track change version on there, so it is easy to see what has happened. I want everybody to have a good weekend. I wish you well. Lianna, Marlon, Victoria, can we just talk for a few minutes once everybody's gone? Thank you.
Thank you
Bye,
so
everybody.
much. See you soon and be in touch for the next session.
Thanks. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Great session. Thank you.
We ask everybody to leave, please.
Where do I go now to get out of here? Okay, I'm just going to close the window here, I think.